Hello again. My name is Professor Sudhir Bisht and I teach business marketing or B2B marketing to the students of Delhi Technical Campus, Greater Noida. In today's lecture for my MBA students, I will talk about first a framework for business marketing management or B2B marketing. I will also introduce my students to the organizational buying behavior. What is organizational buying behavior? What are the characteristics of organizational buying behavior? And let me at this point say that organizational buying behavior is different, different in many ways to the consumer buying behavior. We will also understand what are the various stages in organizational buying behavior. I will also give you a peek into what has been called as the buying center. We will also discuss in brief what are various buying situations. Also, we will discuss what are the systems, what is meant by systems buying and selling. And that is all we will discuss today. So let's first understand what is meant by a framework for business marketing management. What does the framework for business marketing look like? It's not so different from any other framework. The difference in business marketing or B2B marketing and consumer marketing comes in terms of the buying behavior of the customer. Okay. Otherwise, the macro framework or the broad framework of B2B is quite similar to any other marketing. Every company, whether it is in B2B business or in B2C business, it has a corporate mission. Sometimes companies have vision and mission statements, sometimes both are combined into one. And organizations do have what is called the long term objectives. Some people like to define the long term objectives as goals, which are more than 2 to 3 year goal, 5 year goals, and then people break it down into goals into yearly objectives, and yearly objectives are broken down into specific action plans. So the framework for a business organization which deals in B2B marketing or business marketing is the same. The company has a vision and a mission statement wherein the company defines or tries to answer the basic question that what does it do, in which business it is in, and where does the company want to be after X number of years in the next decade. Sometimes vision and mission, they are inspirational statements, and they are broad indicators of the company's aspiration, and it also helps people who are not working inside the company, customers, bankers, people with different relationship as vendors, to know as to what is the culture, what is the ethos of that company. So it all starts with corporate mission and objectives. And of course, to do this, the monitoring of environment is very necessary. The external environment can be broken down into two, which is the macro environment, which is basically one can do a kind of a pestle analysis for that. What is the political environment? What is the economic environment? What is the social environment? What is the technological environment? What is the ecological or environmental factors which are into play, and the legal environment for the macro factors. And for task environment, one can do any other exercise. For example, many people for task assessing the task environment of any economy or a market, many companies take recourse to the Porter's five forces model. So you need to monitor uh, and predict the environment. Okay. And you also need to have your own vision, mission, and your long term objectives. And when I say environment, it is domestic environment, it is international environment. So this is the first step. Based upon these two, once you have once you want have decided that you want to operate in these markets or this market. When I say market, I don't mean geographical market, but in terms of in which product category or in which service category or in which business category, then you have to assess the market opportunities, isn't it? You have to assess the market opportunities. So just like in consumer market, you assess, you try to get a 360-degree view of the entire market, all the market forces, the competitors, the likely competitors, the market shares of current competitors, how the strategies being adopted by various rivals or various market players. So in B2B, if you are in B2B business, so you will also assess the marketing opportunities for your product or service. And in B2B, as I said, in the earlier lecture I said we split this into commercial market, there can be government market, institution market, and you assess the market potential of all segments. Based upon that, based upon that, we select a target market. So once again, segmentation, and out of various segments, you will select a target market. Uh, just to give you an example, if you are a company which is making compressors, okay, air compressors, and your air compressors, for your air compressors which are not uh, of big horsepower, and you have zeroed in to petrol stations where your air compressors will be sold, or the petrol pump dealers will keep your air compressors, which will inflate the tires of the motors, so you can decide that I want to be in this market. So where in which all organizations, institutions, uh, markets, air compressors will sell. So which are the categories which are already crowded, which are the categories which are less crowded, which is the category where my kind of a air compressor will serve the most, or it will be the best, which is the that category where I will be able to, with less marketing efforts, I will be able to reap more benefits, something like that. You could select a target market, you could select a target market. Also also in B2B, for example, let's take the case of Udan, which is a B2B company which serves the retailers. So Udan has deliberately targeted the markets in, not in tier 1 cities but in tier 2 cities. Okay, so there are so many retailers across India, and they all source their products from the wholesale market, or distributors come and service those retailers. So, but Udan, which is a B2B company, which is supplying uh, household goods, groceries to retailers, it has selected that target, it has selected that segment, which is not in tier 1 city, which is in tier 2 city, because in tier 1 city every manufacturer through its distributors wants to reach you. The challenge rise in, if you are a town, if you are in, let us say, uh, if you are a retailer in Mewat, or you are a retailer in Khurja. Khurja is a place in western UP, midway between, not kind of midway between India, between Delhi and Aligarh. So where not many people go there, not many big not many big companies directly go there, and wholesalers go there. So Udan is trying to, Udan has selected that target segment for online sale of wholesale, online sale of goods, of household goods to the retailers. Okay, so then you have to analyze the organizational buying behavior. How do these people buy this stuff? Who are the people who are buying it? What is the periodicity of their purchase? What is the periodicity of their purchase? What are their payment terms? Okay, and what are their pain points? What are their pain areas? So many times you will see that there is a pre-sales team. There is a pre-sales team before the salespeople move in with their pitch. The pre-sales team has analyzed everything, and then the sales team comes to negotiate to do the hard sell, as they call it. So you have to evaluate all the alternative markets, all the alternative market segments, and then select the target segment. Then based upon the target market which you have selected, you will make your marketing objectives. What is the example of marketing objectives is like? Okay, to give you an example, again coming to Udan, which is aiming the resellers or the retail sellers or the shopkeepers. So it can say that the Udan can say we want to have a business of 500 crore in the after 2 years, or in the next 2 years. Or suppose I am trying to sell air compressors in the segment of petrol stations. I have selected that petrol stations, the petrol retail outlets, are my target market. And let us say there are 50,000 retail stations or retail outlets, petrol pumps in India. And I say after the end of year one, I want to have a market share of 5%, which means 5% of the petrol stations must have my air compressor. But this is a difficult exercise. This is an exhaustive exercise, because if there are 50,000 petrol stations, it is mandatory for all stations to have air compressors. So normally everybody would have it, okay? And in many ways, in case of at least in public sector companies, the the oil companies provide air compressor, or at least they give a heavy subsidy to the dealer. If it is a dealer owned, dealer operated petrol station, the oil companies like Indian Oil Corporation, and I can tell you from my example that Indian Oil Corporation and Bharat Petroleum and Hindustan Petroleum and the erstwhile IBP, they give a subsidy to the dealers to buy air compressors. So I will have to make a strategy now. I will have to make a strategy. If I want, let us say, 10% share, or 50, 10% is too ambitious, I think, for a new air compressor company. But it depends. So it will have to make a strategy development. One strategy could be, I will reach out. I will reach out to oil companies directly, and I'll tell them that I want to be the preferred supplier of air compressors to all your petrol stations, and this is what I am offering. Okay. And as you know, you can have various strategies. As you know that the air facility has to be provided free of cost at petrol stations. So obviously this rules out the model wherein you say I will provide air compressor at your petrol station free of cost to the dealer or to the company, but I will charge the customers, because this strategy is not an option. Why? Because as per the marketing discipline guidelines, customers don't have to pay for air for inflating their tires, or for for air facility at the petrol stations. So your strategy development is constrained by this rule, isn't it? So you will have to develop a strategy, and a strategy is not something which you follow for 6 months or 8 months or 1 year. Strategy is a long term plan. What you follow, strategy is later on broken down into tactical planning or tactics. You can I am reminded of what we did when I was working for SO Petroleum in India. So we had targeted all the service stations of tractor brands to sell our oil. So see the segmentation. We said in rural areas we will target the uh, tractor service stations, authorized tractor service stations, as our organizational customer. So how did we approach them? We offered to these service stations free equipment. When I say free, I mean it was not really free. They paid for it eventually. But for example, there was one particular service center of Punjab Tractors Limited, which was doing a roaring business. So we approached him and he said, we want to sponsor a capital item to you. So they wanted pneumatic tools which are able to reduce substantially the manual labor at the service station. So we provided them for pneumatic tools worth 100,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupee. But we tied it up with them that okay, you will have to, all your lubricant needs, all the oil, tractor oil which you use, tractor oil, differential oil, gear oil, greases, all that you use, you will source from us. And we are a world class company, we are world's biggest lubricant company. And we signed a contract with them. So this is what is known as strategy development, and it was a we signed a contract for 3 years time. So if you spread 100,000 rupees or a lakh of rupees over what he bought from us, over a period of 3 years, he also gained because he got the pneumatic equipment, pneumatic tools, which for him was free because we paid the vendor directly. We also gained because we gained entry into one Punjab Tractors Limited service station, and it had a ripple effect. Others also started approaching us. So this is what I mean by strategy development. Of course, now I have given you an example of a lubricant company, but suppose you are supplying a very sophisticated machinery to a plant. Then all your company, and it's a custom built kind of a machinery. Then your production team, your design team, your R&D team needs to work in tandem with the marketing department, and there has to be interfunctional coordination to serve the customer. So once you have developed a strategy, then your strategy for the marketing, so then you will split it into your various marketing mix. So what are the four marketing mix? Traditional four marketing mix are product, price, place, and promotion. So based upon your overall strategy, what is the product or service you will provide? For example, in the case which I explained, we said okay, we want to focus 70% of the oil should be engine oil, because that is how it is. This is the consumption pattern of a service station. Then 10% should be gear oil, and then 2 or 3% should be grease. Then how will you reach that customer? Like in the case I explained, the case of SO lubricants, we decided we will reach this service station through our distributor who's in Ghaziabad. Pricing, what will be the pricing? Now that you have given the pricing at the heart of every pricing strategy, which was followed by all my companies, whether it was Indian Oil Corporation or Reliance or SO, Exxon Mobil, we always followed fair pricing. See, pricing, just because you have provided a support, you can't be exploiting your customer. So what will be your pricing? Your pricing has to be such that you are adding value to the organization, and for that value addition you get adequate remuneration. That should be the underlying philosophy. So then since I explained to you that we decided to that our target market will be tractor service stations. So how do we reach them? Is it advertising or through sales promotion or through personal selling? Of course it is through personal selling, because you need to sit with them, you need to have several visits, you need to have several cups of chai with them, befriend them, understand them, because you can't be risking a trade scheme which costs a lot of money to your company, and you can't use that scheme to with a customer or with an organization which will not be benefited by it, or which will take your scheme and will not give you the desired return which you want, which you want from them. Okay, so you have to make marketing programs. It doesn't end with just supplying of pneumatic tools. You have to make marketing programs, because you need to, like what we did, we used to hold a farmer meetings there, farmers uh, meeting there. We used to explain to them, because engine oil had two markets. One is the institutional markets, and one is the aftermarket, or the, many times farmers, they change engine oil themselves, so they go to a particular shop to buy. So we had marketing programs where we met the farmers, we approached the retailers, and we placed our product there. We need to also understand, if we have done a program, a marketing program, what is the response. So you run a program at two three places, you see the response. Suppose the response is that, okay, you have given a benefit to an organization, but the organization has not been able to fulfill its part of promise. Then you need to review it, you need to evaluate it, and you need to control it. So I hope I have been able to explain to you the framework for B2B marketing, many similarities with the framework of consumer marketing, and many points of differences. Because in B2B marketing, from the stage of strategy development onwards, it becomes highly customer centric. Customers in B2B market, customers are less. There are fewer number of customers, but their volume is more, or their consumption is more. So before we deep dive into the process of buying and what is a buying center, a quick recap of what is a business market. And a business market, it consists of all organizations which acquire goods and services, but they use them in their production process, or they rent it, they sell it, or supply it to others. Once again, business market, it comprises all those organizations or buyers who use goods or services in the production of other product, or their final product, or they rent it, they resell it, or they supply it to others. Like, if you are supplying a machinery, if you are supplying a machinery to a paper company, which is a paper industry. So paper industry is not consuming that machinery, it is using the machinery. It's a foundation good, which is using this machinery to produce paper. Or if you are supplying currency counting notes to banks, the bank is using it. Bank is not exactly, consuming it, but it is being used to count the notes at the bank. It is aiding a bank in some of the activity of the bank. Or if you are supplying uh, a fleet of buses, to Delhi Transport Corporation. So Delhi Transport Corporation, it is a business buyer. So this market is, you are a seller. Let us say you are Ashok Leyland, or you are Tata Motors. You are the sellers, and the buyer is Delhi Transport Corporation. So this is the business market. And organizational buying. What is organizational buying? I want to define it as it's a decision making process by which formal organizations, they do what? First, they will establish the need to purchase a product and a service. They will identify vendors or the suppliers. They will evaluate each and every proposal, and they will choose between alternative brands and suppliers. So there is the process of selection, identification of the vendor, evaluating their bids or evaluating their proposal, and taking a decision. This is a formal process. So this is organizational buying. So in this, I want to explain to you what is a business market and what is organizational buying. Now we will proceed further. Now let us try to understand what are the various characteristics of organizational buying, which are different than the characteristics of consumer market. First of all, in organizational buying, there are fewer buyers. It is obvious, number of uh, number of factories or number of companies are lesser than number of human beings on this earth. So fewer buyers, and the transaction of organizational buying is large. It is not retail transaction. It is not a small transaction. Uh, see, imagine going to buy a everyday household item which can come under a thousand rupee, and imagine your the requirement of household for paper for a A4 sheet. It won't be much, but imagine the requirement for A4 size sheet of a college or a commercial organization. It will be very large. And and as I will explain further, the relationship between supplier and customer has to be close. It has to be close in case of organizational buying. Then customization. What is customization? Customization is to be able to modify the product or to come up with a changed model of product. It is easy for sellers in case of organizational buying because the order is large. Okay. For example, if you tell a bookseller that please change the binding of this book for me, he will not be able to do it. But if if a publisher was told by an organization which buys several such stationery or diaries from the publisher that please change the binding of this diary, the publisher will do it easily because the transaction size is large. Organizational buying, the demand is derived. If I am supplying uh, brake pads to a car company, then the demand for my brake pads will be as it happens in organizational buying process that I explained, that this is a very systematic process and it's a multi-layered process, and it's not something where a purchase decision is made on impulse. So there are various stages in organizational buying process. The first stage is that problem recognition. So if there is a factory which wants a new machine which is more efficient, or suppose there is a old machinery which has broken down, so a replacement is required. So this is the first stage where problem recognition is done, and typically this the department which is using that kind of a machine or that service, there could be a factory which has opened a smaller plant in an area which is far flung, and then the organization thinks that they require bus service to their new facility. So this is problem recognition. Then they will try to describe this problem, and that what they need people, they need their employees to be reaching that factory which is far flung. So where is the nearest railway station? Can employees come by metro to that particular station, and then from there the company can have dedicated bus service for the employees? Okay. And uh, are there is the public transport reliable? Public transport already available, in which case they will not need to keep bus service, you know or the company bus service. But if the company is working three shifts and the public transport is not available after it is dark, then it will need to keep it. So they will then product specification. What kind of bus is needed? Which kind of contractor to be contacted? You search for supplier. So what should be the capacity of bus? Should it be a 20-seater or should it be a 50-seater bus, depending upon. So product specification. Okay. Then proposal solicitation. Proposals are sought from the various vendors, and then supplier selection. Based a committee selects, okay, we need 10 buses and we need them at this time, this time, this time at the metro station, and these times at the plant. Okay. And then a purchase order will be issued, a PO will be issued after the supplier has been selected, and then the supplier's performance will be reviewed. So these are various stages in the organizational buying process. There are three kind of buying situations. One is called a straight rebuy. In straight rebuy, suppose there is an organization which routinely requires a particular raw material, and it has already, the senior management has already got some impaneled suppliers, and the rates also have been fixed. So this is called a straight rebuy. In straight rebuy, not much of decision making is required. I'm trying to explain what are the various buying situations. So in such a case, suppose there is a supply, there is a large factory, or let us consider a case of a large building owner who has leased various spaces in the building to many organizations. Okay, so space leasing company, and the owner of the space leasing company, the company that owns that building or that infrastructure, is responsible for supplying power to every customer or every client who uses that space. And there are frequent power breakdowns, so the company needs to have a standby power source, and it is generator, for example. Maybe two generators of 5000 kVA or whatever, not 5000 kVA, maybe less. So it needs to buy diesel for these generators. So the top management has said that okay, you can buy a generator from any of the, you can buy diesel or high speed diesel, HSD as it is called in India, from any of the petrol stations. So whenever the diesel stock, it reaches a minimum level in the stock of the storage, in the storage space, the clerk or the purchasing officer can straight away make a telephone call, and the petrol pump dealer will come and he will make the deliveries. He will deliver that supply, or the company can send its own vehicle and it can bring diesel in 210 liters barrels, or drums. Okay, so this is straight rebuy. uh, in straight rebuy, it is very difficult for any new vendor to come in, because the one thing is, product is not there is a lot of product parity. The product is not distinct. After all, it is a diesel. The rates are fixed. In fact, the all the petrol stations in a particular geographical area has the same price of petroleum products. And the management has also already done a rate contract with various petrol pumps. So this is straight rebuy. Second is model. I will now explain what is called, sometimes it is called a turnkey sales. Turnkey, turnkey sales. And traditionally it is called systems buying and selling. What it means is that a business buyer, it buys a total solution to their problems from one seller. For example, if government of India wants to construct a new office for one of the ministries, then of course it will have to buy the land, it will clear the title, the title will be transferred from the original owner into the name of the government of India, and then the government can give a turnkey project to two three companies in conjunction. There could be one architectural company, or a company of architects, which will come out with the blueprint of the new building, and then there could be a turnkey contractor who will be responsible for constructing the building from alpha to omega. So this is called a systems buying, or a complete buying of a solution. Let's take the case of Maruti Suzuki Limited. The engine of the Maruti is manufactured in the Maruti factory, and the gearbox and everything, the vital parts are manufactured within Maruti Suzuki plant, or maybe of the new vehicles in Japan. This is something which cannot be outsourced. But let us say the seats or the doors, they could be outsourced. The door panel could be outsourced. So a company may be responsible for providing, two or three vendors maybe they will be responsible for providing the doors. For example, tires is something which Maruti does not manufacture, so it can give a complete solution to. So finally, we come to the interesting center, which is called the buying center. A buying center, actually, we call it a buying center because all the participants organizational buying process or the business buying process, they constitute this buying centers. So let's start with an example of, let us take the case of an oil corporation and the laboratory of an oil corporation, where samples are routinely sent for testing the purity of petroleum and petroleum products, whether this petrol is pure or not. Samples are collected from the fuel stations, from the retail outlets, and they are sent to the laboratory of the oil corporation, where the oil will be checked for any possible adulteration, whether it is pure or not. So the first the first participant in the buying center, we will call a initiator. Initiator is a person who requests for something to be purchased. So in case of a laboratory, uh, it is possible that the laboratory officer, he is requesting for an apparatus which is quickly able to uh, test the purity of the petroleum sample in terms of specific gravity. Okay, that, because every petroleum product has some specific gravity. So uh, there is a new machine or a new apparatus. If you just drop a sample into that apparatus, it will immediately flash, or it will immediately give out the specific gravity of the sample. So laboratory officer will typically, if he has come to know about it, because if he finds that this method is a very accurate method as compared to the method that he is using, okay, so he may be initiator, he may initiate this request. He may not be the user, because he's the lab officer. Users are lab technicians who will actually use this product. So initiator and user, they work in close coordination. Users are the laboratory technicians, and initiator is the lab officer or the lab in charge. Then there are influencers, people who influence the buying decision. So it is possible that the boss of the lab officer, who may be the head of a quality control or quality assurance department, uh, he may he will influence this largely, and he would actually be the decider. So perhaps the influencer will be the people from the sales department, who actually send the samples for testing, because they may say that it takes a lot of time for the samples to be tested at the lab. So they could influence that there has to be a faster mechanism for conducting the laboratory test. So they are influencers, and the head of quality control could be decider. Okay, yes. Okay, yes, a request has come from the lab officer, who has spoken to the lab technicians, and the user department, which is the not the user department, the department which needs the test reports, which is the sales department. They have also said that such kind of a apparatus is required. So decider, the head of quality control, will decide, okay, this is something which is needed, but it has financial implications. Okay, because he has to buy from so many laboratories, and it's an expensive apparatus. So he is a part of the decision making body, but this has financial implications, so it will be approved by the appropriate financial authority. It could be the general manager or the executive director of that particular region. So initiator is the lab officer, user is the lab technician, influencers are people from sales who require quick the results to be published or announced in quick time. Decider is the head of quality control or quality assurance, and approver are the people who are vested with the financial powers to say, okay, we approve this subject to this expense. Okay, then there are buyers, are people who are normally in the procurement department, who will issue a purchase order, who have the formal authority to select the supplier and arrange the product. So the procurement department may take the help of technical department also. They are buyers. Then there is a very interesting category of gatekeepers. Gatekeepers, who are those people who may not be impacted by the decision but who have a vested interest in preventing the seller or information reaching the buying center. So typically they could be it could be somebody with the maybe the lobby of the people who are adulterating, who are indulging in adulteration. They may not like such an apparatus to be bought by the company because it hampers their business of black market. Okay, or there could be there could be union, there could be a trade union which may say that with the with this new apparatus the time taken for testing will slow down, so this will impact the overtime of the lab technicians. So these are gatekeepers. So this is what comprises a buying center. I hope you have understood it by this example.